In today's video, we're going to take a little deeper dive into Puppy Training 101, and we're going to talk about some dog training theory. Now, if you've seen just a couple of videos from our McCann Dogs channel, I think you're ready for this. We do a lot of how-to content, and in this video, we're going to talk about the why. The reason that's so important is that once you understand the reason for teaching a certain behavior a certain way, you can really cater it to your dog and to your specific training scenario. So in this video, we're going to talk to Instructor Shannon, who's our Director of Online Training, and she's going to spell out the 3 steps that you need to be successful with your dog with any kind of skill. I'm Ken Steve, and welcome back to McCann Dogs. We help more than 500 dog owners every single week here in our training facility to overcome the same dog training challenges that you have. So if this is your first time on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that I can help you to have a well-behaved, 4-legged family member. Shannon, you and I often talk about the why behind dog training in our podcast, and I thought it would be a great opportunity when I saw that piece of content that you created to talk to our YouTube audience a little bit about the why behind their dog training. And as I mentioned in our opening before I came in here, understanding the why behind what you're doing with your dog really makes you a more versatile trainer. It also allows you to cater what you're doing to your specific dog. You talk about 3 steps to being successful with your dog, and let's talk about the first step. What is the first step that our audience needs to be aware of?
Yeah, you bet. The first step would actually be teaching a skill. So, if, for example, I'm teaching a sit exercise, I need to spend some time helping my dog understand how to get into the sit, what my communication methods are to get him into the sit. For example, if I wanted to teach him a signal or if I wanted to teach him a verbal, I'm gonna have to make sure that I spend some time helping to have him interpret those things, because of course we don't speak the same language. So I like to do that in a quiet environment. I like to make sure that there's not a lot of outside distractions going on so that there's optimal learning taking place. And I will spend enough time getting repetitions of that I've got the behavior fairly proficient on whatever I'd like. So whether it's a signal or whether it's a verbal, I'll make sure that I solidify that in that quiet environment before I start adding anything.
And what is step 2 in the general training theory?
Well, I would say that the second thing that you need to be very, very aware of is management of the cue while you're still in the teaching mode. So chances are I'm not going to be able to teach a finished product in one session. It would be very few skills, or it would be a very, very well-learned dog that would be able to complete a skill in one session. So presuming that we're talking about puppies, if I'm teaching the sit, I don't want to contradict that. So I don't want to now take my dog into environments and start, asking for the sit or start assuming that he's going to know. There's a certain amount of management that needs to come into play so that I can create a skill that is really, really solid from that first step. So management is what I'm going to do to make sure that my dog doesn't get it wrong while he's still in the teaching phase. Yeah. So I need to make sure that if I am in a new environment, for example, and my dog is looking to me for information, that I give him good, clear information, and that means probably taking a step back to the beginning of my training set, and in this new environment now, starting with that first stage that I would get through.
To avoid the risk of getting too abstract, let's talk about some specifics for management. Fixing problem behaviors or teaching your puppy to be right. What are some specifics for management?
Yeah, you bet. So great management tools are leashes, crates, all the things that allow you to keep the puppy from making the wrong decisions in the interim. So, for example, if I'm house training my puppy and now I need to go and have a shower, I'm not going to leave my puppy loose in the house and just hope he doesn't have an accident. Chances are he might make a mistake. So I'm going to put him in a crate and use that as a management tool so that while I'm in the teaching phase of house training, I'm not having my dog rehearse having accidents in the house.
For sure. A couple other examples that I think of, I know we get a lot of questions on the channel about, are using things like a house line. Being able to manage your dog if they get wild and excited, or if they grab something, or they're jumping up and nipping, whatever it is, having that management tool of a house line. And also, eliminating their opportunity to do something like that, to jump up, because you're proactively training them, you're working on some of those skills. I also just struck me thinking about walking on a loose leash. It's something that you and I talked about earlier today, but when you're in the teaching phase, you're in a very quiet area. You're managing the environment as much as you can to allow your dog to be successful, and you're not spending 5 minutes on training and then 25 minutes allowing your dog to pull on leash.
Exactly. We don't want to end up in a scenario where our dogs learn the exact opposite of what we want them to learn because we're not in the teaching stage or we're not in training mode, let's say. So as an example, you were using walking on leads. I would avoid taking my dog for just general long walks while I was doing the teaching phase of walking on leash, because I know that I can, maybe walk around the block or just stay on my street in front of my house, back and forth in front of my house, and I can get in the perfect training that I need, rather than trying to take my dog for a big long walk and having him pull me the entire way and then rehearsing exactly what I don't want him to do.
Yeah, and we talk about dogs will do what's rewarding, and I know we've mentioned that on the channel a fair amount. If we eliminate their opportunity to be self-rewarded by jumping up on the counter, for example, that's a really good one. Managing your dog so that they don't have the opportunity to reward themselves. Leading up to that, you'd be training your dog to sit nicely when you're beside the countertop with maybe something delicious on there. But after that, you need to really manage them and make sure that they can't reward themselves whenever they want to, because then you have a much greater challenge at hand.
Exactly, absolutely. And dogs, being dogs, curious, inquisitive, they're going to investigate the environment, they're going to make mistakes. So what we need to do until they understand the rules of the house is we need to manage them so they can't make those mistakes and they can't get reinforced for making the wrong choices.
For sure. The last step in this flow, in the 3 steps to successful training, is maybe the one that's the most rushed, the most overlooked, and it's something that I think our viewers at home really need to take seriously when they're teaching their dog to have a reliable recall, come when they're called, to have a reliable response to name. What is that 3rd step that is so crucial, and it's a very fluid process?
It really is. And this is usually the big disconnect when somebody says, my dog's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, but he does it at home.
Right.
We hear that a lot. He does it at home, and people are frustrated because their dogs do these great things at home and maybe not here in class one day. And it's because the dogs need proofing. They don't generalize like we do. So we can, I can get into a Honda Civic and drive it, and then get into a Ford Escape and drive it. We can generalize well, but dogs are different than us. They will go into a new environment and it's a completely new scenario for them. So we need to make sure that we expose them to all sorts of distractions, whether it's environmental, whether it is it's distractions of food or other dogs or just a new location that you're working in. Proofing through is the step that's going to take much more time usually than the actual training itself, and it's so much more important. So if you find yourself saying, why is my dog not doing this here? He does it at home. It's probably because you haven't taken enough time to help them generalize, to proof through, to acclimate them to different distractions, and to make sure that, my dog can sit in the kitchen at home. When I go out on the road, I want to make sure that my dog can also sit there, but I need to be fair and I need to give him enough repetition and enough exposure to different distractions, etc., in the environment that he is going to be able to perform it and ignore the bikes and ignore the other dogs and just give you full attention and absolutely give you what you want.
For sure. And I think I'm thinking about this from our new puppy owners, or maybe you're about to get a puppy. You can apply this idea. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing process. You can apply these ideas to the sit. You can apply these ideas to walking on a loose leash, as we've talked about a lot. Maybe you've got an adolescent dog and you feel like you've got a nuisance behavior and you've come to YouTube looking for an answer. Whatever it is, you can take these chunks of information, training, management, and then proofing, and apply it to whatever you're working on at home. Now, for proofing, you talked about distractions, and we talked about the 3 Ds when it comes to proofing some of these behaviors, and maybe explain to our viewers really quickly the 3 Ds when it comes to proofing these skills with your dog.
You bet, and these are a big deal. So it's going to be distance, duration, and distraction. So with distance, we want to make sure that for things like stays, I'm not going from a foot out in front to 20 feet out in front all at once. Duration, I need to make sure that I'm not asking my dog for longer than he is capable of giving me, and then adding in everything and using those distractions to not only help my dog understand that listening to me is preferable, but also to help him become confident in those skills, to help him understand how to sit, for example, when there's another dog in the vicinity that he's interested in saying hello to, for example, or a bike driving by that he might want to chase. I need to make sure that that exposure is what I spend a lot of my training time on, so that he has no problem understanding what I'm asking.
Now, I want to thank Instructor Shannon for joining us here today. And if you'd like to work with Instructor Shannon, our Director of Online Training, in our free monthly workshop, check out the link in the description below. And if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved four-legged family member. On that note, I'm Ken.
I'm Shannon.
Happy training. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.